All right, Milsurp Garage here. Let's do a video. That's right. We were out at the secret range, the secret forest range, which is really just out behind a friend's cabin, and hopefully we can get a little bit more in depth with some shooting videos back there. Trying to put it together. You gotta bear with me. This might be the last video from the actual good old Milsurp Garage. Might be able to squeeze in another video or so before we move to the new Milsurp Garage. I'm not really sure exactly where I'm going to put that together in the new place. Don't know if that's actually going to be the garage or the downstairs man cave-ish areas. Who knows? Well, what we had out there at the range, give you some impressions on what was going on and how everything felt, was the Winchester 1897. A little bit more research on this thing actually found out that it's possibly a 1904 build date now. Not that 04, 06, not that it really makes that much of a difference, but to some guys that really know these things up and down, who knows, maybe that does make some kind of difference in how they're put together. Because they do have different kinds of options on these things that I've noticed that I've seen on the newer ones. Like buttons here, instead of this being a screw, this is actually a button that just makes the rounds pop out. Because it is kind of a pain in the neck to unload it going through this way. You kind of have to move two things at once to the side. Instead of unloading like say an 870 where there's just one catch, There's a couple of little doodads on the newer ones, like the takedown feature and all of that. But on this guy, I really wasn't sure what was going to go on with this thing. It's at that age, and my Stevens was a little touch and go. So this one I was a little worried. But this thing made me feel stupid because even my buddy was like, it looks like there's a hairline crack there in the stock somewhere. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, yeah, I feel the way I looked at it, this is easy to replace. I really just didn't want the receiver exploding in my face. I'm like, if this cracks, it cracks, you know what I mean? But I think that this is, I think this wood will definitely outlast me and will blast this thing thousands of times without having a problem. I might just have that feeling. But yeah, the action loosened up on it, nice, and it. The thing with it is that it does this whole inertia unlocking thing with the pump that definitely worked. You know what I mean? That when it fires, see, if I just pull back now after it fires, I get nothing. Like John Browning didn't want you to pull the trigger and it goes off and then the pump goes. Like if you're pulling towards yourself, because this would be the way you held it when you were shooting. You'd be pulling this towards yourself, and he didn't want. As soon as it went off, he didn't want the pump to come towards you. That would feel awkward, So what would happen is, bang, after you fire like this here, the hammer drops, right? Bang, it just fired. You'd have to push. If you just pull back, you get nothing. You'd have to push forward to unlock it, then come back to eject around. That worked flawlessly. That was completely working. And it also, holding the trigger down, it was definitely able to just shoot. As you pumped it, it would shoot. It would, as soon as the hammer would drop, you're actually dropping the hammer. If you're holding the trigger down, when you come forward, you're just pulling the hammer along with the bolt, actually, and just striking the firing pin, of the next round that you're feeding in there. But that worked. That works all too well. That's just frightening. You really couldn't clear a trench any faster or more cleared than with this thing, honestly. And it does have a little bit of a feeding issue, but if every other round didn't feed right, I'd have to figure out what was wrong and fix it. But it did it twice out of loading the magazine 5 times. I mean, it seems like it might be one out of every 15 rounds, one out of every 20 rounds just doesn't feed right. I'm like, I'm okay with that. I'm not using it for self-defense where it has to be 100% You know what I mean? For its age, for it being 90 years old. If it's is it 90 years? No, it's well over 100, 100 and whatever, 120 years old, something like that. 100 whatever. Let's see. What is it? 2016? Yeah. So 112 years old. Um, I think I think it deserves to be at 95% or 90%. That I could live with that. What else we got going here? The 22 trainer, the Simpson 22 trainer. What a joy this thing was. I mean, I didn't think in a million years that it was really going to have any trouble, let's say. But I was like, who knows what's going on with these sights. Oh, speaking of sights, can I move backwards? This has got to go. The problem with the Winchester here, the Winchester is the front sight. See what some guy put on here? I mean, it's got a Phillips head on it. Yeah, where that Phillips head comes out is where there's supposed to be a bead. It's almost like he put that on the top. Maybe the bead fell out, and he just like put this on this rifle sight on here, which is this is a nice steel rifle sight actually. I mean, this would go nice on something else. You know what I mean? It is a nice old sight, and it's just got to come off of here, and I got to get a bead put on there. So when you would hold with this, you would have to kind of like line up the. There is no like rear sight. It's just kind of like the flat receiver. It's like a channel here. You would just kind of line up that with where you would expect the bead to be, but not optimal for shooting at a range where we had like steel block at the end. You see in the video, my buddy actually got mad at me because I fired 3 shots, and all 3 shots, each one, hit the 2x4, and it's the thin part of the 2x4 that holds up the steel, and all 3 rounds went right through and split the 2x4. The first one and the second one went through without actually making it fall apart, but it did like split the wood, and then the third one just shattered it completely, and the whole thing fell apart. So it just goes to show what like 1-inch Foster slugs, they really pack. I mean, they'll just go through anything. They'll even split 2x4s, even the long way. You know what I mean? But that's how it was. How low I was hitting was because I was even trying to compensate, but still it was. I just have to really get a bead put on there and put it back to the way it was supposed to be. So then on to the Simpson. This is where I really thought I'm going to be like, kind of like all over the place with this thing, because I'm like, yeah, well, the sight. Look at the graduations on here, and it's a 22. I mean, how accurate is this thing going to really be? I was really surprised because it was like right on the money. It really was, and it was just crazy fun. What can I say? It was you don't really mind that it's just single shot. That it's single shot like this little teeny bolt. It was a pleasure to shoot, and the bolt action is nice because it keeps it so super clean inside. I haven't cleaned it yet. Well, that's what I'm taking them all out now to do. And I wouldn't even know this thing was shot. If you asked me, like, hey, did someone just put 50 rounds through this thing, I wouldn't even. I don't see one fleck of 22. That 22 disc powder. You know what I mean? Not one fleck anywhere on the bolt or anything. And it worked flawlessly. It ejected every. It didn't like. Non-eject, nothing. You pulled back, the little 22 casings went flying, and it was a joy. This is what a great gun to get a youngster into this hobby, because they would get used to it being heavy and solid. I mean, even a kid would lift this and be like, wow, you know what I mean? But then, meanwhile, an 8mm round, you're not going to give that to like a young kid, or especially like a young girl that you want to get into this. You're gonna make them shy from it. You're gonna make them hesitant to want to even mess with them again after that one range visit. But with this thing, this is perfect to get them into it. I can only imagine that Dad is over there shooting his collection of Mausers, and then you have Junior over there, next to him, 1 round at a time, nice and safe, so you don't have to worry about any kind of semi-automatic accidents. It's just one round at a time, and very tame. The weight of it and the length of this barrel, it just made it so tame and a pleasure to shoot. And then, of course, just had to I had to just throw something in there. I was like, if I'm going out there, I'm gonna take something different. So took the old SVT. Yep, and really did catch my finger in the. See, the thing about the SVT is that probably the best way to see, it's so weird that you would take out the magazine and the bolt still stays back, because then you would think that it was the follower that was holding the bolt there, but no, there is some kind of mechanism. So you just wish somehow you could be in touch with that mechanism, because boy, when you want to close the bolt, when you have an open bolt like this and you have to press the follower down, I mean, that thing doesn't fool around, man. Like, it's kind of grandish in a way, so you just want to be careful, but definitely not as dangerous as the Grand. But it'll bite you twice as hard just by the nature of how it closes here. And for a rifle that lacks primary extraction, what's interesting about these is that you could look back at my past videos. You see the fluted marks on the brass. I call it brass, but it's really steel. On the spent casings, let's say. You see the flute marks, and it's really interesting that they're compensating by putting these flute marks or whatever, or they're doing something to, you'd think that there's an issue there, is what I'm trying to say, is that they have to actually do something different to be like, in order to get these spent casings out properly, we have to flute them out. So you think you're going to have like issues or whatever. Then this thing's like a top. I've never had a stovepipe. I've never had any kind of issues with feeding or extraction of spent shells, no matter what I use, whether I use like that, what is that, wolf stuff, or the bear, there's some kind of brown bear, what the hell is it called, that stuff, or of course there's the regular Milsurp, a couple of rounds over here, the Russian Milsurp stuff. I stick with, this is what it is, I was telling my buddy too, I stick with this 60 as the factory. If you look on the top number is the factory, and the bottom number is the year. And I have a whole bunch of this newer stuff. It's not that sniper ammo, that sniper Skya stuff. I got the camera's in the way of the drawer, but I have some of that stuff. It looks similar, but a lot of people don't comment and say, oh, that's the sniper ammo, because it isn't, because this is made in '89. But it isn't the sniper ammo. The sniper ammo is made later on, like in the 80s, like that. But it's this is just regular stuff. But I had like maybe 4 tins of that. That's the 60 factory with this 89 date. And I hold on to these to use in this because consistency with the ammo in these guys is important, because of this adjustable gas thing that you got going on here. So when you set this and then you're using one type of ammo, and then if you switch to something else, like you switch to brass cased PPU, or you use like the steel case but the brown bear or whatever that stuff is, different kinds, it's going to react. If it's going to have like slightly different properties, the ammo, whether it be the bullet weight or the powder in the case, is going to cause different characteristics with the blowback and stuff. So it's gonna, you don't want to hear this bolt bashing into the back of the receiver. And then if you have the gas, if the valve is set too tight, you're gonna have the you're gonna have the bolt traveling back but not quite far enough, and then just pushing the spent brass right back in again. So you're going to pull the trigger again thinking that because it cycles and everything, but it doesn't eject the brass. It just it'll just sit in there, or it'll be enough to eject the brass. I've had this happen too when it's not set tight enough. When it's set too tight, it will eject the brass. The spent casing will come out and the bolt will close, but it'll close on an empty chamber. You won't have picked up the next round. So what I did with this thing is that I just kept making it looser and looser and looser until it cycled properly, and then once it was cycling properly, I just stuck with this ammo, and I've never had a problem since. But I'm just afraid that if I would go to like some of the older Russian stuff I have, you know, the 188 factory stuff, that maybe I'd get. And the 188 factory stuff, the newest stuff, is where you're going to find that sniper ammo. I forgot the designation for it, the number designation for it, but I bought some of that, and then I'm like, why did I buy? I paid 4 times as much as I would have paid for the regular surplus, and I'm like, for what? You know, why did I do that? Well, I think it's just to have a tin of it in the collection of you know, the different tins. And but this thing again performed flawlessly. It was awesome. My buddy didn't want me shooting it after we checked the steel a couple of times. I was shooting it terribly. He was hitting the steel with it. I really wasn't. I was just kind of having fun, like trudging through the, you know, like shooting through the branches and playing World War II with it. He was bearing down and really getting some hits on the steel. I wasn't. But then when he checked the steel and he's looking, it was making divots, you know. So even at that, how far we were, I guess we were closing in on 100 yards away from that thing, 75 maybe. And man, these rounds, see, these rounds, they will stick to a magnet, you know. They will attract a magnet, and there's steel in there, you know. While they're not like you know, anti you know, there's no like armor piercing or anti-armor quality to them. They do have steel, and steel on steel, you know, it is hard. It is hard stuff. It's harder than lead. I mean, that's the bottom line. But when you go to a range, sometimes you go to a range and they put a magnet to these and they go, no, that's armor piercing ammo. You can't shoot that here. And I'm like, it's not armor piercing ammo. You know, whenever these non-Milsurp guys say that, you want to kill them, because, you know, like if I really wanted to go buy armor piercing ammo, I could probably find this Russian stuff, armor piercing, you know what I mean? Because they did use this for like anti-aircraft shit and everything. The Russians use this round for everything, you know what I mean? And you probably can find anti-aircraft shit, but it would cost so much money. That's why I tell, like, to them, I'm like, you know, just because, you know, it has a bimetal core. That's all it is. You know, it's not armor piercing ammo. You know, but I guess you kind of see where they're coming from, because the frames of their targets and stuff at the range. You know what I mean? When you shoot this stuff, it can make dents in it, or literally pierce it, or, you know, mess up like anything that they have that's made out of steel that they don't want to get damaged. This stuff can and will damage. And I mean, it's true, because his big fat metal plate was getting divots from it. Nothing else. No handgun ammo, no other ammo, nothing else hitting it. Even the Foster slugs hitting it would not make those divots. But this stuff, this bimetal core stuff, the steel core stuff will. So you know, and I respected that. We want to you know, we want to prolong the use of the steel. You know what I'm saying? And maybe you have to like climb back in the woods another 100 yards. Maybe it wouldn't make those divots, but then I would definitely hit absolutely nothing. See, it wasn't me. I wasn't causing the problem, because I wasn't even hitting the freaking thing. But yeah, that was fun, and it was actually fun going out there. And I've been there a few times and never really thought to you know, video anything. It was always just fun to just kind of sneak in a quick trip there, and really didn't have time to set up any you know, videoing or anything. But it does look like a you know, a real viable place to be able to you know, get closer to like a Hickok 45 type of you know, situation where you can actually talk about the gun and shoot it, which is yeah, which is kind of cool. And yeah, that's it. Like I said, we're going to be having a change of venue going on here soon. And no, I just have all this hanging and stuff because it's freezing. It's towards the end of May, and it's just still cold here. It's just still cold. So I have to get a little heater going out here in the garage and like kind of cordon off a section of it here at the end, and keep it warm over here, because otherwise I would be like having to wear a jacket in here, and that's, you know, that's not happening. So yeah, that's it. Gonna try to get some more, a couple of more videos done here maybe, and then you know, apologize for the lack of activity on the channel, but been up to a lot. And then once we settle down in the new place, we can really start having some fun. So stay safe and enjoy your Milsurps. Bye bye.